Be there or be square. Go to theordinarybusiness.com to sign up for the Ordinary Business Summit happening October 14th and 15th. This is the Ordinary Business Podcast for business owners who want honest conversations, a lean business, and an extraordinary life on their own terms.
Jaci, what are you reading right now?
Oh my goodness. Right now, I am reading a poetry collection from Sarah Kay. She is one of the first poets that I ever made me fall in love with poetry. And I am reading her latest collection, A Little Daylight Left, and it is beautiful. I highly recommend it.
Oh, fun. Okay, so we're talking about reading today, obviously, but before we dive in, can you introduce yourself and tell us about what you do?
Absolutely. So I am Jaci Schreckengost. I am a writer, a marketer, and a creator. I'm based in Florida over here on the Space Coast, and I focus a lot on content, digital, and social media marketing. I've been in this space for a little over 8 years now, which is wild to say. I really focus on working with brands to help them find their voice, effectively tell their story, and become impossible to ignore online. I love working with all kinds of different brands, especially women-owned, queer-owned, and creative businesses, and I love it so much.
Okay, so diving into reading, when did you start prioritizing reading and not just, if I have time kind of thing?
I think I was super, super lucky on this because I have been reading consistently and heavily since I was a child. I have an extensive Nancy Drew collection. It's a problem. But I think I've always been a very, very avid reader, particularly on thrillers, mysteries, things like that. And I think that's just kind of followed me through my life, which has been really, really awesome. But having that foundation in place, I think, has been so, so vital to helping me keep it. Just because I know how important it is for me and how I'm I'll notice if I haven't consumed enough art, if I haven't read enough, if I haven't been creative enough. I notice it coming out in lesser qualities in my work, and I notice myself being really irritable. And I'm like, oh, I haven't read for fun. Of course I'm upset.
Yes. For me, it's I need that brain break. It really forces me to not think about business, because even if I'm watching The Office or Gilmore Girls or whatever, at some point my brain will start to drift.
Yes.
And I'm still watching.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What does your reading routine look like?
I love this question because I don't have a routine for anything. When I really start to think about it, it's typically evenings and weekends. I was recently talking to somebody and I was like, oh, that would, reading would kind of be this great buffer for, working from home. I don't commute, obviously. So I was like, oh, that would be this really cool, kind of commute replacement is, reading a chapter before work, reading a chapter after work. I haven't implemented that yet. But I think it's a really cool idea.
I know somebody who does quote unquote commute, she walks on her walking pad before and after work to walk to work.
I love it.
I've kind of tried that. I'm not super consistent, but there have been mornings where I'm like, oh, well, I have some time, or I'm waiting to hear from a client before I can start this. And I want to read, but then it's hard for me to stop reading.
Yes.
And I'm
I need to know what happens.
I'm I just want to, I'm good about taking my Kindle, to the doctor, to just random things like that. And that is something that changed the amount that I read. But also I had to kind of shift from okay, here I have an hour to read. Now I can read, to I might have 5 minutes and I might only read 3 pages in my book or something. But it keeps me from just doom scrolling or going on Slack or checking email. Just helps me disconnect a little bit more than just always being on and in the business.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, I want to talk about reading fiction specifically. And before we kind of dive into that, do you read any business books?
I do.
Are you like 50-50 on fiction or business or like,
Oh, no, heavily fiction.
Yeah,
Heavily.
same.
Yeah,
Same.
heavily fiction.
Yeah. And I was a big reader as a kid and then kind of fell out of that. And then in college and after college, and especially as a business owner, I definitely fell into this trap of I need to be reading self-help or business books because I need to be getting better, like, on whatever it is. But I wouldn't read very often. And part of that was because I found the business books to be a little bit boring. I don't want to insult business authors. I have friends who have business books. They're great. And so I'm curious for you, what do you get from reading fiction that you don't get from reading like business books? Like what makes you pick up the fiction more?
So something I think that's really, really prevalent in fiction that you're not going to get as much in business books or, similar self-help books, anything like that, is 100 people can read the same fiction book and have 100 different takeaways. They can go, like I might read it and I might go, wow, that was a really beautiful commentary on the experience of women in America. And somebody else might read it and go, I didn't get that. I got, XYZ. I got, living in the city and, the difficulty of having family across the country. And it's like, that's such a beautiful thing to me, is that we can all read this art and consume this art and get so many different things out of it. And I love that. And I think from a fiction perspective, it's, we're getting these things that we're not necessarily looking for. We're getting these moments of inspiration. We're getting these moments of empathy and understanding. And we're getting these just like really, really deep connected moments that I don't think we often get with business books.
Or if you're like me, you are also reading like 100 different ways to escape from being murdered or
like just tactical. Like,
you
gotta be ready.
I was thinking about a conversation I had with two friends a few months ago, and the one, they're both named Katie, so I can't like differentiate, but the one was like, I very similar to how I used to be, of I need to read self-help and business and whatever.
Yeah.
And the other one is like me and loves fiction, and like that's really what she reads most. And she's like, I just feel like I need to be productive. I need to be and that's where I was. And she's like, I don't know. I feel like it's a waste of time. And the one who reads fiction was like, the thing is like, you still can learn things from fiction. Yes, like deeper things like empathy and connection and or how to escape a murderer in my case, which I did make that joke. I was like, but she reads like some historical fiction, and she mentioned, and I can't remember what it is now, but it was like, I read this book about whatever, and I learned about farmers doing X, Y, whatever it was. And it was like, I had never heard about this thing. And like, yes, it's a fiction book. Like, it's not teaching me how to be a farmer or whatever it was that she learned. And so I thought that was interesting. But I do think it's easy, especially as business owners, for us to get sucked into this, like, I have to be productive and I have to figure out how to be more efficient and those kinds of things. And I'm curious if you have noticed any ripple effects in your business from keeping hobbies and reading as a big part of your life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So this year has been a whirlwind for me, to be perfectly honest. But I think one of the biggest things for me has been my book club. I've been in this book club for, oh my gosh, several years. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful group of local women. We get together and we read and we, dissect these books and, we do these things. But it's become it's just become such a huge part of my life. I'm going out and doing other things with these women too. Many of them have their own businesses or have had their own businesses. And it's just kind of this this experience of all of us doing this together. And I just think that's so beautiful. Like I love that so much. And I think, especially right now, we're in such a weird pl- we're in a weird
Mm-hmm.
place. But we're especially in a weird place when it comes to like individualism versus community. And, we as humans have this innate need for community in general. And without that, it feels like we are alone. And if we feel like we're alone, we are going to operate like we are alone. And that's really not helpful anybody for anybody's business for anything. And I think as it like relates a little bit more to business is, when I first had this big shift and I was like, hey, I'm going back full time in my business. I had 20 people go, oh my gosh, we're so excited for you. We're in your corner immediately. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I think this really speaks to the importance of finding something outside of business because as online business owners, it's typically very hard to find community. I was in a book club and it was really good, one, to just have this other thing in my life that was
Yeah.
not business related
Yes.
because I know that there are other business owners like me where business is like the main thing in my life. And for
Right.
so many years it was, because I've been in business for 14 years. And for most of that, I was not a mom. I was married, but was not a mom. So it was kind of like I work and I go to the gym and that's it. And so like I didn't have these other aspects of my life.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a workaholic, like I had good boundaries, but it was just kind of like, I don't really have anything else to talk about. And so then cultivating this community with other women and talking about books, it was really refreshing to have this like other piece of me. So I think that more business owners could benefit. And whether it's a book club or a running club or like whatever kind of outlet, I think it could really benefit all of us to have this other thing.
It's like we need to find these things that can give us something outside of our work because it's so easy to go, okay, time for me to work 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all I do.
Yes, yes. Do you ever feel like guilty reading for fun? Or you're like, no, I love my reading and I have zero guilt about it.
I feel no guilt now.
Mm,
It took a lot to get through that because I think this question is so hard because it lies in a lot of like really, really deep, deep wounds.
mm-hmm.
And so many of us get those so early. And I think we get them from multiple places, which is what makes them like really, really prevalent and long lasting too. We get these like, oh, that's fun. I can't do that. Especially as women and especially as women business owners. We're like, I am not allowed to have fun. And it's like, well, what is that? But we get these and we usually get them both on like micro, maybe it's from our family, and macro levels. Society goes like, oh, sorry, if you're going to be in business, you need to be serious all the time. And I think it really stems from, or like maybe the thing that helped me the most get through it is that why is this thing that brings me joy seen as less than? Why do I feel like, oh, reading is frivolous, especially when, I'm like, we just talked about this. There are so many benefits to reading fiction and reading poetry and reading all these different things, reading in general. There are so many different benefits. And it kind of comes down to this like innate thing that is, this lack of trust and this lack of, oh, well, like, I don't know what's best for me. And like, of course you do. So I think that guilt comes from these like really, really deep places, which is what makes it so hard to get rid of because it's ingrained and it is there from such a young age. And we're like, oh, I'm not allowed to have fun anymore. I'm a business owner. And I'm like, well, do you want to be a happy business owner or do you want to be a
Right?
miserable business owner? because I want to be a happy business owner. So I think those are really, really hard wounds to overcome. But I think they are necessary and so worth it. Because when we come out on the other side, we get to read really good books and have a really good time and meet other people in community that share those interests.
I think it even extends beyond just business owners. I think there's a lot of like, well, I'm an adult.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
can't go have fun.
Yes.
Like, I can't have fun anymore.
I heard not that long ago, John Green was talking about writing, and he's primarily written like YA and has a lot of female main characters. And someone asked him, as a New York Times bestselling author 10 times over, I don't know how many books, when are you going to write a real book? And I was like, if people don't think he's good enough, they definitely don't think I'm good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I measuring myself against these people's opinions that I don't care about? He doesn't care about them. I don't care about them. I need to go back internally and say, am I good enough? Because if I'm measuring it against this person's measuring stick, it's never going to be good enough.
Yeah.
But what if I'm good enough right now?
Jaci, you are preaching today. I love this so much because like this is important. And like this is why I wanted to talk about reading fiction, because it's much more than just I just read fiction. Like it is important. Reading or a hobby or whatever it is, it's all important.
Yeah.
The last question I have, if someone's listening and they're like, okay, well, like I'm not a fiction reader. I don't know what type of fiction I like.
Yeah.
Where do you tell them to go? Like, how do they start or figure out what to like pick up first?
Yes, absolutely. My first recommendation is to find your local bookstore, go in and say, hi, I haven't read in so long and I don't know what I like. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get someone who is so excited to help you find your next read. I'm just thinking like my favorite bookshop, E-Shaver in Savannah, Georgia, shout out. They are amazing. And I'm like, I cannot imagine how excited the booksellers would be if you walked in and you were like, I don't know what to read. They are most likely going to be so excited to help you in your journey.
Also your libraries, because my mom was a librarian.
Yes.
And she would love to, like, when kids would come and be like, I don't know what. And she's like, oh, this book would be, lots of kids have read this one and they really liked it. So don't feel weird about asking for book recommendations because people love that.
Yes.
My recommendation and how I got into reading, because I didn't really start reading until 2024. And that was the year I read 105 books. I went from 0 to 105.
That's amazing.
And how I found my genre, which is strictly like thriller and mystery, is my best friend was like, well, what kind of TV shows do you like? And I really like Law and Order SVU and movies like Gone Girl. And I don't like horror films, but I like thrillers and stuff. And she's like, have you tried reading that? And I, for some reason, was like, no, because I thought it would scare me. And she's like, why would if you watch it on TV, why would it scare you? So I picked up a thriller and I was hooked and I was like, what? Why have I not done this? So I would say either, yes, go to a store or library and ask for recommendations, or just think about like what TV shows you like. And I mean, you could even, I'm sure there are Reddit threads, or ChatGPT could also help with like, hey, I like Parks and Rec. What kind of books would I like? Are there books that you would recommend, or, something like that that could also point you in a direction?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for chatting with me about books. This was so fun. And
so fun. I love this.
Yes. Where can we connect with you online?
Yes, you can connect with me on Instagram, which is where I am primarily. My personal handle is Jaci Schreckengost, and my business handle is Schreckengost Creative. You can find one through the other. I am also pretty active on LinkedIn. So feel free to send me a request and let's connect. And if you need book recommendations, your third option is to DM me, because I'm more than happy to chat, and you're going to get way more than you asked for.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I will make sure to put all the links in the show notes.